Hi guys, so welcome back to the Pop My Cherry podcast. So we've got myself, we've got producer Sean over here, and this week's episode is going to be a wee bit different from our conventional episodes. I would definitely say, and I just kind of want to say this obviously before we jump into it, it is some would maybe say it's a heavier episode than usual. We've got a fantastic guest on. I definitely say polarizing. Would you say? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, look, the primary topic of this episode here is religion, and I think we wanted to come on here beforehand because we know the topic of religion puts a lot of people off. And we have a strong sort of opinion on things here. And we wanted to get on Jed, who has a very strong opinion himself. And we wanted to have a good conversation. Here, and I think that's what we had. So I think we're just encouraging people not to be turned off by what we're about to talk about.
Because this is the thing. It's like this won't be your usual norm of your episode, and we're very mindful of our listeners. You know, like we have listeners from every walk of life, and I think the goal of this episode was to create a conversation of two different people from two different walks of life. If you know, obviously myself and Jed would be a creator. If you're unfamiliar with him, he is a creator on TikTok, Instagram, different platforms. But Jed's story is definitely, it is an interesting story.
Massively.
And, you know, I think definitely there's a lot of, I suppose, mixed opinions in ways from different sides. And there would be a lot of mixed opinions, I suppose, from, you know, Jed's walk of life, of maybe Jed coming on a podcast as such. But, you know, it's kind of discussing the complexities, I suppose, of differences, but showing how two people from two different walks of life can have a conversation, have disagreements, have different viewpoints, different belief systems, and have respect and can occupy space. I think we've came into a world now where we're very segregated, and I think we're very
siloed.
Yeah, we're afraid to ask questions. We're afraid of anybody that is different from us, and we're afraid of challenges or challenging or being challenged, and not maybe lacking a bit of critical thinking. So this episode is a wee bit different. Would I call it a debate? I wouldn't call it a debate as such, but I would definitely say it's a more hard-hitting episode than our usual fluffy fun episodes. But there's actually loads of laughs in between it as well.
I think that's what we're all about as well here, because yes, we could have the same guests on every week having a laugh, blah blah, but I think what we're trying to do here is do something a bit different.
Something different. And, you know, it was always an idea I always had. And I was just like, how interesting would that be? And, we never knew how it would go until we did it. So
it's actually an amazing chat.
Yeah, it's a really, really insightful conversation. And the only thing I'll say is, look, you know, give it a chance.
Have an open mind.
Have an open mind. And I think it's very much I just love, you know, I've been misunderstood a lot in my life, and that's something that we would share a similarity. And Jed gets very much misunderstood in other ways. And I think it's when you see two people from two walks of life that you don't expect to be able to get along, you could be surprised at the similarities that these two individuals can have, and also the respect and the compassion that they have for each other's differences. So look, it's obviously going to be very heavily discussed about religion, the complexities of religion. Mental health does come up in conversation as well, and suicide. So if that is perhaps triggering, we just want to give this disclaimer before we jump into it. And thanks again if you do listen to it and make it to the end. I'll be very intrigued to know what your thoughts are. But yeah,
let's get into it.
Will we hear from Jed? Okay, here we go. Okay, guys, so welcome back to the Pop My Cherry podcast. So it is myself, it's producer Sean, and then we've got a guest.
My cherry.
I know.
I know. I mean, don't get wrong, all this is great branding, but it's like hearing you say it live, it's just funny.
Yeah. It's like, did you ever think you would be here?
Yeah, tell me about it. It's going to be interesting to see the response.
Yeah. It's like, I know, I think anybody listening or watching, they'll be very likely maybe confused, I would say. Now, the funny part is we do have a lot in common. So we're both called Jared.
Yes, that's right.
But we don't adopt. We like to have a bit more of a cooler name. So Jed, Jerry.
Jed and Jerry.
Yeah.
Jed and Jerry.
Content world, content creation, we've dabbled in. And then obviously there's differences as well. But a lot in common too. We've always had good conversations anytime we've ever had encounters. But I just think you're a very... I think you're very fascinating. I think the transition of your
You flatter me.
journey, no, on a serious note, and I think in today's day and age, I think authenticity, like we always say, Sean, you know, like I value anybody that is themselves, even if it's different from me.
Yeah.
I find that refreshing because I just always find there's something that you can gain from a difference more so than a fear. And I think that's the reason why I thought this would be a good idea. If we sat down and had a conversation, I think we can see along the way, what do we relate to, what do we have in common, things like that. So take us a wee bit back. So obviously, so you're a content creator, videographer. How would you describe yourself?
Man, like, I don't know. It's like, what don't you do nowadays? You know, we're going into this world of like AI and everything. It's like, how do you label yourself? But I would say probably just I'm a content creator. I love telling stories, and I think that's something I'm really passionate about. And
storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling. So it's always been weaved in through different mediums throughout the years. It would have been like filmmaking back in secondary school, and then being able to create films out of people's weddings when I was doing that, and then going into photography and then content creation. So it's always been about storytelling for me, and that's why I really enjoy content creation, because it's being able to tell a story on the screen, and I think that's what connects us as humans. It's like being able to tell relatable stories. So for me, it's content creation. Like, I don't really do TikTok as much as I used to, but this year that's the intention, because I do full-time marketing. So I'd work for businesses like crypto and like fintech companies.
Oh, really?
And stuff. Yeah. So that's what people don't see. So I have like I work for a firm in London in the fintech industry. So I've been doing a lot of work with them over the last year and a half. So it's been very, very intense. But
is crypto the thing you buy into? Like crypto, is that?
Yeah.
Like crypto bro, kind of finance bros. Is that crypto? Is it? Or am I? Is that stereotypes? Is it?
I mean, I'm actually a bit offended the way that you just stereotype me like that. To be honest with you.
We're off to a bad start.
But no, look, what we said earlier, offense is taken, not given. You know, so
yes, exactly.
But yeah, for me, that's kind of what I do, like on a day-to-day sort of basis. That's what I got into over the last year, as I needed to, be a man and stand on 2 feet, get established, because I was getting married and, having a baby and all now. So like, had to be responsible, not just running around like a headless chicken like I did 2 years ago,
So then talk us back to the 2 years. So obviously, that's how I first discovered you, and it was very much like TikTok, like you were, I would say, one of like the core creators. There was this I remember I had moved to Spain, and whenever I came back, TikTok was really on the rise, and there was this new wave of like loads of different creators, and like you were one of the key people, and it was very much, there was like a real like lifestyle here, like in Belfast, and they said no, but like you were very much like, so obviously very much like marketable, like the brand and all that, like all that stuff I've always very much noticed, and your content was always really like, I wouldn't say not edgy, but like cool. Like you were like kind of very like the cool kid. Like, did you ever do like parkour or anything like that? You like that? Yeah, did you?
Prophet Jerry.
Yes.
I was just saying, like, growing up, like, I was never really into sports. I was the one who done the weird things, like breakdancing and skateboarding and parkour, free running, like literally.
There was just always like nearly like not rock star, but you know what I mean. Like there was just you had a bit more of like a street cred compared to maybe like the others with like their basic everyday in their lives, or type of thing. So what was that time? First of all, I always say this. Why did you feel like you went into that? Because I have a reason why I went into it, and I'm wondering if it's similar.
I think like it birthed out of when I was younger, watching. You remember like Casey Neistat on YouTube? Like all those guys are really great storytellers, but also being seen. And I think for me, like a lot of it was trying to feel like probably feel some sort of like sense of self-worth of like, oh, if I have a platform, then people value me, And I think it was not necessarily something that I was like, I'm going to become a big influencer. I wanted to create content, and then somehow slipped into that world. Okay. It was just a series of events, break up, and then you're living in the town. I never had a party life when I was younger. I went out drinking and all, but I all stopped when I was like 16, 17, so I could focus on myself, building myself, creating, we many businesses, self-employment sort of stuff. And I was always really wanted to work on myself, so it was just all the way the timing lined up, like okay, now I've got money, I've got free time, I'm living in the city centre, I'm creating content, people are interested, so it all just became like a snowball that I was like, how did I end up in here? Like, and that's the way that's why I could never wrap my head around it. When you're going out on a night out and people are coming up, like loads of people coming up, want to get photos, and are like, they're putting you on a pedestal, and I'm like, I just make TikTok videos. Like, this is so weird, but it was never like something of mine, like, I'm going to become a TikToker.
So that wasn't a goal, no. I just fell into that kind of
stories.
Yeah. And then what about like the lifestyle part of it? Like obviously, like we'll fast forward and go back, but I think this part does play a big part in your story. If you get me, like absolutely. It's like that chapter in your life. Like, sometimes I don't know if you feel this way. Sometimes I look back at parts of my life and I'm like, sometimes I feel like the feelings maybe like you're like shame in a way, but I'm a bit like, but back then I actually did enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, I used to go out and go be crazy and go wild and go to the raves and then I'm like, oh gosh, like that's terrible. And I'm like, but you know, like at the time,
it was fun.
It was a part of the journey.
There's no denying it. It was fun. Like So that was with the party and the lifestyle and all. It was fun because I never got to experience that when I was younger. Like I didn't go to uni or didn't do any of that stuff. So I kind of missed out on a big gap. My younger brother, he would always say that. He's like, I had my party stage. Like you needed your blowout sort of thing, you know. And that's kind of what I've accidentally fell into. But it was at like a much bigger extreme, right? You know, so just having like all the clubs in your back pocket, like you go in and you get free bottles and tables and
my gosh.
Like I'm not romanticizing it. Oh, let's shut up.
Sorry.
But yeah, like to me that was it was so fascinating that it's like they would give you this stuff for free and I wasn't like I was a raging alcoholic. I was like, oh, okay, I'll go because I can give my friends a table and they can get drinks and all that sort of stuff.
It's like a social thing,
yeah. But one thing led to another. And it was like a snowball effect. Like when you're going out into the party scene, you begin to actually get a taste of it, and you're like, "Whoa, this is quite delightful."
Yeah, no, and I think that's. But I think, do you see this? And this is maybe just to bring this point up now. I think sometimes, whenever like, especially with like creators, like there's a lot of people online that maybe have, obviously they've found like a connection with God, but they've completely went like a 180 to the part where they're nearly like bashing their previous life, and I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yes.
Like turnaround. Do you get what I mean, Sean? So say like there's maybe people that maybe done OnlyFans as a career, and then they've developed a relationship with God, and then they nearly put down that part of their life and likely people within it, and I think that's where a lot of people have an issue with. It's nearly like
it feels inauthentic because it's like. Where did that come from? Or where you like...
You're not acknowledging what you once did enjoy. Yes. It's a part of who you are.
Kanye West and, that sort of thing.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's where like a lot of people like... I don't think you necessarily do that though, but I just think I think a lot of people definitely struggle with that part.
I think for me, like I'll definitely talk about it in the sense of like, hang on a second, why do we as a culture feel the need to have a pint with absolutely every meal and social gathering?
And that should be...
I will talk about that stuff because, like, growing up, especially, for context, my background, growing up in a council estate, broken families, suicides all around the estates, like, people really struggling with mental health, fall into alcoholism, drug addiction. So we all have our own perspective and outlook on life. So for me, I will, now that I'm clear-headed, I can acknowledge, hang on, why do we have to have a drink with everything? Why does everything have to involve alcohol and a party? Like is there maybe something that's stopping us from being ourselves about a drink? Like, I don't know. But for me, I do believe that people, can go too far on it and begin condemning the lifestyle that they've just came out of. But for me, it's like Jesus gave me grace. So who am I to judge someone who's living that way? Because I experienced that same lifestyle. I know what I was experiencing. Yeah. I know the heartache and the heartbreak and the troubles that I was trying to fill my heart with by going out and partying and all that stuff. Yeah. So I can look at that, but I can also see people that are in that same rut and say, I understand what you're searching for. Yeah. And I believe that I've found what it is that you're searching for. So that's why I share my faith online.
I got it. Yeah.
So it's never my intention to... No. Condemn people or to make people feel bad or to, what's the word? Judge people. Like I never want that because who am I to judge? And I genuinely do mean that. But I do think it's my responsibility just as someone that cares for the humans around me within the communities that I grew up in, finding this, what I believe is a solution to many of these problems that the way that we're acting out and the ways that we're living. Yeah. It's a hard issue. So I think that I've found something, and that's what I want to share with people. Yeah, so
and that part I do get, and I think this is it's funny when you're saying with the alcohol, that's to a lot of people. Alcohol, they will never have seen a dark side of alcohol. I've seen dark sides of alcohol, as of you, obviously, like in different environments. Always worked in nightlife, always worked in bars, and like always, like I've seen a lot in my lifetime where I've seen like when you go too far where the place where it can go. And I think so sometimes I think a lot of people maybe think, oh, dry up, like why is that, like it's not that like just go and have a cocktail or whatever. I get where you're coming from with it. And I think maybe for a lot of people, maybe that's where they were in they were trying to fill a void, and then they maybe found the answer, and then that's maybe. But I think the messaging. I think a lot of it is the messaging,
communication.
Communication.
And look, I'm never going to say that I'm going to get it 100% right.
Neither am I.
You know, that's the reality of being a human. Imagine like being in the public eye for like yourself, and so much gets recorded that you could say something wrong or slip up. You know what I mean? And
we do quite a lot.
I know. And it gets chopped out of context. Next thing you know, you're being flipping crucified in the middle of Belfast. You know what I'm saying? But I'll never get everything right, and I acknowledge that. But one thing I want to do is continue to like build upon that and like understand, right, what are my personal convictions, right? As in like, there's like, you've got like the Bible, which is like saying X, Y, and Z, this is what leads to healthy and prosperous life, all that sort of stuff, right? And then I've got my own, you know, convictions where it's like, you know, drinking, let's be realistic, drinking alcohol, it's not a sin in the Bible. Getting drunk's the sin, right? But then it's like, I look at Ireland and I'm like, why is it that it's weaved in every the fabric of our identity, you know? And look, I'm not condemning or like going on a rant on alcohol. I didn't mean to even get down this path. But it's more to illustrate the point that, you know, I'm trying to discover these pressures within society, you know, like pressures to drink, pressures to take drugs, you know, all these social issues, but it comes a lot from the heart. And so it's like, right, if we can identify what the problem is, what is the solution? What is the solution? And I think I know the solution.
Okay,
you know, so.
I got you. Got you.
What was the turning point? What point did you stop and go, I need to change this?
I remember, can people hear you in the mic?
Yeah.
I remember for me, it was like, I was having all these after parties on the outside. It looked class, like, you know, 60 people.
Really, I was always like, oh my God, I want to get invited. I never got to. I'm raging.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
My bad, Giant. Listen, God meant us for this moment and this time. Who knows what would have happened? You know, so yeah, it was like having all these mad after parties and, you know, all these people coming up and the attention. I had money, freedom of time.
Yeah.
Everything I wanted, but still it was like on to the next extreme. And it's like, when does this end? And I was like, I feel terrible. I have like, what's the word? I didn't feel proud of what I was accomplishing. Like I felt like a low self-esteem. Like I was like, what is this problem? Because I was going into I was having these after parties and going hiding in the closet, having a flipping mental breakdown, panic attacks and everything. And I'm like, on the outside, it looks like I've got everything that I wanted and everything that the world says that you should desire in terms of status and wealth and all that stuff, right? And look, I'm not saying I was a millionaire, but when you're 24 making I don't. But yeah, when you have the freedom of time to do this stuff, it's like, right, that's everything the society says I want. I get it, and yet I'm having panic attacks. Like, what is the problem? And for me, it was like, I remember making a video, and it was like in my bed one night. I think it was like July 2023, and I was like, I think for me, I don't know if it's the same with you, but sometimes like to me, my phone is like I used to confide in it a lot, so I would like record myself talking just to get my thoughts out. And it would be like
That's what we were literally talking about that this morning.
Yeah.
Do you do the same thing?
Yeah, like periodically.
Like nearly like a visual journal, nearly.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's beautiful because now you can look back
and see.
I literally just said that earlier.
Yeah.
I'd encourage you to keep doing it, like, because when you have a story to tell one day, you know, when we all look back on our lives, it's like, here's the transition seasons and the time.
Here's where I was at this point.
Exactly.
You know,
But I made a video, like, having it on my phone. I was like lying in my bed and I was like, I am effing done with this lifestyle. Like, you think you want it till you get it. I'm done. I'm effing out of here. I need to get out of here. I remember exploring faith years ago. I'm going to go after that. I'm going to look for that. I didn't even realize what I was saying.
Yeah. But
years ago I did, like, I was into spirituality, like New Age spirituality, but I also got a devotional. Someone gave me a devotional, and I was working in a Christian company called Outside In. Well, it wasn't a Christian company, but like a lot of the
yes.
So that was how I first got exposed to God. But one of them invited me to church one time, and I went, and people had their hands up in there, and I was like, "These are flipping weirdos," and never went back, you know. But I'm the guy with the hands in the air now, you know. But yeah, so I was like lying in bed and just said, "I'm done with this lifestyle," and then things just started to crop up and creep up, and one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I'm in a church and I'm just weeping my eyes out listening to how people are singing about God and who God is and how loving a God he is. And that was kind of like the journey of, I need to sort myself out, because on the outside it looked amazing, but again, most things, like we all know this, yet again we fail to acknowledge it properly. Social media is a highlight reel, like it's like there's probably even a disassociation from people watching you. And they're like, that's ours, flipping Jerry Labs, and you're probably just thinking like, it's the whole parasocial thing is very strange. Exactly.
Like, it's like you think you know somebody, but you really you're seeing a curated version of somebody.
Exactly.
And even though we're aware that, you still will absorb it and, you know, form opinions on it and buy into it whenever it's like you're not necessarily getting a full picture of somebody's identity.
Absolutely.
If you get me. And I think that's what I'd say. That's the one thing that I would say I think isn't fair with yourself. I feel like a lot of people, and the thing is, everybody is entitled to their opinions. That's the way I live my life. I'm like, and I get a lot of misunderstandings as well. But I do think that you are very misunderstood, which we'll obviously dive into loads of things further on. But it's that I can relate to that part when you're saying about the stepping in. But for me, it was therapy.
Yeah,
like
right.
I would say, like, I definitely would have faith. Conflicted faith. We've talked about this before, but we can talk about it in more depth after. But the therapy thing for me was always I had a wall up. Like, I'm not going to therapy. Like, therapy's for the weak, or I'm not doing that, or like I have no problems, or I had such a negative misconception about it. And then a friend kind of approached me. I was like, get away, and then approached, and I was like, get away, and then it was that seed that was there that was like, hold on a minute, there's something that you're meant to be doing here. And it was honestly the thing that saved my life, like, genuinely. So
isn't it interesting how like therapy in itself is literally just a conversation with someone, with someone that knows the right answers to ask, you know? And I think that's what the beauty of a relationship with God is, not to jump too far ahead, but like, you always have that loving father who wants to know your heart and help you with everything, that you can always talk to, even in your shame or the things that you don't want to speak about. That's why I love my relationship with God, because like we said, you only see the highlight reel or what we want to share on social media, but we're still human just like everybody else. And we choose not to talk about the scary stuff, you know, and not, sometimes I don't have the courage to talk about the scary stuff, you know, that I struggle with. Because I was in therapy when I was like 13 in school. School forced me to go to it because I was suicidal. Like, I was very depressed, and it was like a lot from the broken childhood sort of stuff. But even back then, I was like, this isn't helping. I don't really, because I didn't know it was a problem. I was thinking to myself, like, is this just not normal? Does not everybody feel this way? Like, just wanting to take their own life when they're like 13, 14. Like, I didn't acknowledge that was a problem. But now I can see, right, all we really need to do is just communicate with people, with someone that actually cares about us and loves us.
Yeah, I know. And that's what it really is. Like, I think human connection, like, I think now we live in a world which is all very parasocial, and it's all very like chronically online. And you know, I think we definitely can both say that we've seen the good and the bad of social media. It's complex, to say the least. But it's I think we're not connecting enough as human beings. But I get what you mean. It's feeling that like you're like nearly like your North Star, sort of, in a way. But the thing is, religion and faith and spirituality, it's such a do you find it like a complex conversation? I think people get uncomfortable by it, though.
I think I wonder why, actually, because I haven't actually thought about this. Why is it that people get uncomfortable? I think it's because, do you want to know why I think it's uncomfortable talking about faith? I think because faith forces us to focus outwardly, or sorry, faith forces us to focus inwardly, whereas we're so prone to focusing outwardly. So like, we're always quick to point out the problems and issues in other people or situations, environments.
Like, nearly like, don't you look at my fucking garden, look at your own. Sorry, the curse of your
my ears.
I don't even think I've cursed yet. I'm like, what can I say? No, but like, it's that's, I get what you mean. Like, don't look at me, like, I think as well, like, there's so many things you could look at. You could look at, like, generationally, like, you know, there has been corruption in so many different faiths. There's no point, you know, drawing attention to one or the other. And, you know, it's like, what would you say? What's your opinion, Sean? With like, would you consider yourself like,
I consider
faith?
myself.
I would, but it's conflicting. But I do have.
Yeah, I'm a Catholic.
Yes,
and I consider myself a Catholic. I believe in God.
Yeah,
and stuff. But I have a troubled relationship with organized religion and stuff like that, and I think everyone does. I think it's okay to have that.
I think you have to acknowledge as well, there's been a lot of trauma in this country, you know, and like, if you think about it, like, religion was like such a strong segregation. It was, you know, and even though that had nothing really to do with religion was like the title for what that, you know.
And I think it's, with our generation, we're all around the same age, and I think for us growing up, I don't know if you felt the same way, but it was actually easier to sort of turn your back towards religion because you wanted to show your opposition to division.
Oh, that's good,
Do you know what I mean? And that's like, and again...
Are you talking about like specific, like with our experience in Northern Ireland in terms of division?
Yeah, right. Because it's like, you know, if you were to acknowledge that, I grew up around, like, when I started hanging out with different people from different backgrounds, I wanted to be like, there's nothing that separates us.
Right.
We're all
Yes, okay.
connected.
That's interesting.
But the way that I sort of expressed that was being like, I don't give a shit about religion.
You're nearly like, I get you, like a.
So that made me more open to people by rejecting that. You know
That's
what I mean? And it's
good.
actually, as I've grown older, and here's the thing, actually, even though I say I'm a Catholic, I don't think the way that I practice, like, faith is that important to me. It's more so that I believe in something. I believe in a God, and I believe in, like, what it gives me in terms of, like, a direction, morality, and stuff like that. That's the bit that I struggle with, is because I feel like focusing in and honing in on the actual organized part of it.
Right. Okay. So like your interest is actually having and developing that relationship with God, but free from the shackles of what religion is typically associated with here in Northern Ireland.
I'm kind of the same.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I'm the same. Like, I didn't grow up religious. I grew up Catholic associated because I'm Irish, and like, I'm from Arnold Park, another side of it's the Shankill where the prods are, you know. So it's like that, I get the division point of it, you know. I remember when it was like so taboo that you were like 12 years, 13 years old chatting to a Protestant girl, you know what I mean? But yeah, I know what you mean, like, because I would have been the same. But I think that's what I've kind of discovered. It's like, it's not about the actual structure around the religion. First and foremost, the first thing that needs to come first is that actual true relationship with God, and that comes, what I believe, is through Jesus. And whenever you have that connection with God, through like the relationship revealed to you through Jesus, then it's like everything else kind of falls in the order. And the structure of what organized religion is, it's more like, it's something to help you to navigate and grow that relationship. Because how are you meant to know and to grow in a relationship with someone that you don't actually know, or like who that person is? Because that's what God is. He's a person, right? So it's like, we need to know who God is. How do we actually develop a relationship with God? What does God like? What does God dislike? You know, what is it that helps me to draw closer to God? So I think that's what religion is supposed to be about. But obviously, because we're all sinful in some ways, and you know, what we're talking about, corruption and religion, it's through all aspects of life. But I think specifically here in Northern Ireland, as we know, we have been poisoned by the Catholic and Protestant divide, from our own lived experiences growing up, and also the history of what the corruption that's occurred within the Catholic Church, which should have been exposed and dealt with publicly. Instead, people and priests and all were like moved around, when it should have been, no, this is wrong, because it reflects God badly, you know.
But I think as well, for a lot of people, like, it's what you grew up with. So I think for a lot of people, and this is maybe where like the rebel, I suppose, I don't know, it felt. This is my experience for it, and like, it's nothing to do with my family or anything. This is just me as an individual. To me, it felt like conditioning. It felt like this thing that was conditioning, and there was like the Catholic guilt and like shame. Like, shame is one of my core beliefs. Like, I cannot shift that. I will have shame till the day I die. Like, that is so morbid, but it is the truth, and that has came through generational trauma, through conditioning. Like, I grew up being different, and it isn't something that I can change. And then there has been things like, oh, you can change it, or you know, you won't be accepted if you are like this way or that way. I always knew I was different, and I always knew I was an outcast, and then that conditioning has made me
resent it,
break the shackles and run for the hills.
Right, got it.
But I still feel a connection till God. But truthfully, if I was the way that, and like, I don't want to say it's in like a disrespectful way, I nearly would rather just push the noise away of everybody else with their inputs and their influences, and because I feel like I can't get connected. Does that make sense?
It does. It actually makes you feel. I'm actually tearing up a wee bit, like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But by influence, I mean the bad and the like.
No, I know.
No,
I don't mean me.
I mean like religion being thrown in my face. I mean, like, even
I know, I understand.
Extremists, like, you know, like anything. It's just all that I don't know.
I think, you know,
because I've been so conditioned to believe that I'm always not welcome. Do you know? But that is for most people in the LGBT community. That is the way that it was. You know.
I know, yeah,
and like, I don't look at people, and I don't think because you're religious it makes you homophobic. That's not my opinion, and I strongly believe that if you have a ideology or a belief system, I'm not going to challenge you and tell you that that is wrong. But I've been told my whole life that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So where am I meant to be with that? Do you get me?
And it's
a tough one.
It's not even that, mate. It's like, I'm more just. I'm touched by what you're saying because it breaks my heart, because Jesus loves you more than you can ever imagine, in the same way that nobody, like the love that Jesus has shown me, it's incomparable to what anybody else can, and he has that same love for you, even whether or not people, whatever, disregarding everything, what you just said there, pushing out the noise. You go to Jesus first. You go to you go to find out who Jesus is. You go to learn about him and the love that he has for you. The Bible says that the greatest love that any man can show is to lay down their life for another, and that's what Christ done for you. So regardless of what everybody else says, they're not your salvation. It's not the man down the street, or Billy Bob around the corner, or whoever's on the social media content. They're not getting you to heaven. It's Jesus. You know, so regardless of what anybody says, Jesus has a sincere love for you, and he desires that relationship with you. So like, that's why it pains my heart to think that the way society has went so far to point out one sin, when the reality is, you know, when it comes to sexuality and like homophobic or like, what's the word, same-sex attraction, all that sort of stuff in the Bible, it's mentioned so little in comparison to greed and envy and pride and all of these things, right? So like, it's almost as if society has elevated so much, you know.
But I feel like religion was sometimes used as a mechanism to project like, what's that, Christian love is something hate.
There's no hate like Christian love.
Yeah.
I know, I understand. I think
I'm not saying that to be disrespectful.
No, I know, of course.
I would be honest in saying there's parts I wouldn't be strong on that, but I see that.
The thing is,
I can why people would say
people would think
that. Religion is so powerful. That in the hands
of
the wrong people, in the hands of the wrong people, people prey on people's faith. People prey on people's beliefs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you're
to use
back
it to their
even
own
like
agenda.
Catholicism, like, you know, like Martin Luther's, you know, the reason that the religion, like I'm going to sound so incorrect here, but like, say like Protestants, it was like to protest against the Catholic Church. Am I right in that?
Yes.
And it was because of like the corruption with like relics, you could buy your way into heaven.
Yes, exactly.
And, you know,
that's
things
why
like
the
that.
Protestant Church started.
Yeah.
It's like,
is that right?
Yeah. Someone ring the bells.
Ding, 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 ding.
The Philadelphia Angels up in the clouds. They're like,
well done. Jesus is sitting down there like,
one step
done.
Closer. S Club Junior, one step closer to heaven. Sorry. Okay, guys, so we're just jumping in quickly to hear from our sponsors on this week's episode, which is Be Perfect Cosmetics, our absolute favourite. So as you guys can see, all the different Skin Studio products here behind me. This is a new product coming to the market. This is the new Milky Essence Day and Night. So it is a toner. It's kind of given like Rhode vibes, the Rhode Milky Toner. A lot of people would say it's kind of like that similar vibe. I've been using it now for quite a while, but I've got this fresh product to show you. This is the bottle. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the packaging. I'm such a packaging kind of person, but I think the Skin Studio products,
all the Skin Studio stuff, it's really clean,
very aesthetic, very much about all that there.
It'll look nice and like
nice on your like display, or whether you've one of them wee shelves in your bathroom or whatever. For your skins, you know, skin care is very much an experience, isn't it? But this is a toner, so it's a milky toner. It contains products such as oat lipid E, which helps soothe, calm, and replenish the skin to restore its natural barrier. And then you've got squalene. Have you ever heard of squalene? I've had to read this just to make sure I'm saying it right. Squalene.
No.
Sounds exotic though, doesn't it? So this is what squalene does. It helps boost hydration and restore moisture for smooth and softened skin. Of course, it has everybody's favourite one of them key ingredients you're looking for, hyaluronic acid. And then it also has allantoin. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Never. I've never heard of that. But basically what it does is draws moisture into the skin to help improve luminosity for a radiant complexion. So toners are very much for balancing out your skin. Obviously after your cleanse, it's cleanse, tone, serum, moisturize. So this is obviously a vital part of your skincare routine. This is now out in the market, but you can get it for that extra wee bit cheaper with our discount code PopMyCherry at the checkout. We're going to leave a link in the description section of this episode if you do want to go and check it out. It's going to be coming to the market, so keep an eye out for it. Brand new product in the Skin Studio collection. So make sure to grab yours now. And I just think the whole packaging, the vibe of it is absolutely gorgeous. So if you want to grab yours, head over to Be Perfect's website and don't forget to use that code PopMyCherry for that extra little bit of discount.
I know I saw one of your videos before, Jeb, where you talked about being from, like, you know, growing up around like Catholicism or whatever, but now, am I right in saying so you've converted to a new church?
So this is again like, you're going to get into like a big theological debate, and it's going to be like, you know, the Catholic scholars and the Protestant scholars coming in and like analyzing everything that I'm saying. What I say is I belong to Jesus. I don't believe I don't belong to
You're not putting your...
I don't belong to Catholics. I don't belong to Protestants. I don't belong to any sect or division. I believe in the Bible. I belong to Jesus. I believe that the Bible is of God. That's how he revealed himself to us. And I do what the Bible says, you know, so it's not like I've converted to Protestantism. Like, no, like I consider myself a Christian in the literal sense. Christian means to be a baby Christ, like someone that is a follower of Jesus. And the best way I can actually kind of say it, I'm just religiously unaffiliated in terms of if you want to stick labels on me, but what I would say is I'm a disciple of Jesus, which just means I'm a student of Jesus Christ. I follow him. I believe in him, what his promises are. He says that if you believe in him, that if you believe in your heart that God rose Jesus on the third day, that you believe that he is Lord, that you shall be saved. Like what God's word says is true, that if you believe in your heart that God rose on the third day and that Jesus, and you say with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, that you will be saved. And then God begins to work in your heart. So again, this is like, it's like a long theological sort of discussion that I don't want to like bog down the conversation with. But
what initially attracted you to the church? Like,
I mean, I got an invite, and a girl invited me, and again, it's like, oh, he's just doing it for a girl.
And then there was that,
and then there was that.
I know,
you know?
I know.
But I was very much in a position of, I'll try everything once at that time in my life, you know? It's like, well, why on earth in the natural would I walk into the Shangle, a place where you're going to the top of the road and you're throwing stones at on the 12th of July marches, you know what I mean? So, but the girl invited me. She was a nice girl. She wasn't like any other girl. It was funny because in the beginning it wasn't even like a, you know, like a, I'm looking something from you sort of thing. It wasn't like that. We were just really good friends. And she invited us, and she invited some of my friends as well, and they were like, no way I'm going on the Shangle, no chance. I'm like, I'll try everything once. Like I remember walking up the Shangle being like, it's like almost as if I've got a tricolor pinned to my forehead or something. I was like, is someone going to find out that I'm actually a Catholic here, like on the Shangle Road?
I remember I saw like an Instagram video one time of like somebody doing a review for a kebab place in the Shangle. So then I drove up, like to pick it up. And I remember stepping out of the car going like, as if the floor is lava, you know what I mean? And it's crazy. That's another one of those things where like you build these things up in your head, don't you? Like,
from both sides, from both sides of the coin, I'd say there's a lot. Like I'd say there'd be a lot of people from like, you know, like the Protestant community that would maybe feel the way of like if they had to like, you know, go to the falls or but it's yet again segregation.
Yeah, it's like the girl that invited me, I'm now married to, and we're having a baby, and we just found out today it's a boy.
Well done. Congratulations.
I know.
Congratulations.
But her mum was actually jumped when she was younger and got blinded in one eye by Catholics. So she would never stop food into like Ardon or anything. And now she's like slowly like being able to drive through to get to mum's house and all. And, you know, so like that's what you're saying, both sides of the coin. Like, of course, there's so much religious, like, well, trauma that is associated to the religious segregation, you know?
Yeah. And it's until you actually talk about it, you're really like, whoa, like it's...
Yeah, and you kind of realize, like, now, I don't want to, like, diminish anything that's going on and people fighting for causes and all that
of course.
But it's like, man, it's just crazy, like, in the grand scheme of things, just how extreme certain things got when we're so much more in common that, like we talked about earlier, than we do have differences, you know? But I'm thankful that we're growing up in this time where there is relative peace, you know, in comparison to before. And now I think, like, you know, with my mission now in life is just like trying to bring people together in unity, because there's so much waste in society, you know, like you look at the governments and they're like not really doing much actually to, you know, push us forward as a collective and wanting to actually have the best interest for one another rather than being so divided on every topic. So it's just, I don't know, it's a big conversation.
To go back on the thing of why people feel you can understand how when we start talking like this, I can understand why people are going to switch off before they hear what we say.
Yeah, I understand that too.
Because I think people hear the topic and, as you said, it's taboo.
But I think when something's taboo and then you're talking about it, I think people feel like it's ironic. I think people think you're preaching.
Yeah. Yes. That's the difficult thing.
It's like you're not.
Yeah.
I think I genuinely get the sense that you're trying to share an experience that you
He's had a very positive experience and like an awakening, I guess, so to speak. And like, I can't relate to it. I can't, but I can respect it.
Yeah.
but with that, this has gave you so much. It's like me with like the therapy. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm such an advocate for that. For me, that changed my life. You've went through an experience.
Yep.
You've built this relationship with God, and of course, it's gave you so much happiness, clarity, abundance, and you want to be able to share that because you're like, well, everybody deserves this. I get the why. I get that. But I think to people. But I don't think that, like, this is part where you have to ask. It's like, sometimes you have to look at somebody and it's like, are they actually doing anything here? Or why does that trigger you?
Yes, well, that's the thing. You start to talk to me about therapy and you're selling it to me and I'm going like, oh yeah, fuck, I need to go to therapy. You know what I mean? Like,
but some people aren't maybe ready to hear certain things.
When I hear, and like, I'm just being completely open and honest here, but like when I hear like you saying that there, I'm agreeing with a lot of stuff you're saying, but when you're talking about like opening up the Jesus and stuff and like accepting the word of the Lord, like I do feel that wee thing of like, oh,
my chest goes a wee bit tight.
See, that's the interesting thing. Why is it that you can preach about anything but Jesus? Do you understand? Because what you're doing is you're preaching about therapy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we do have a negative connotation with conversations around Jesus.
Yeah,
that's the reality of it, you know, because we're all preaching something, you know. I'm just preaching the Bible, you know. So like
an anecdote like that I give you is from like the other day I was going down Castle Street and there was these two girls, you know, like standing like next to St Mary's Chapel, and I was like, and they were handing stuff out and I was in a hurry and I was like going past them. And as soon as like she stopped me, I could immediately tell it was something like religious. It was and my first thing was like, oh God, here we go. You know, you know what I mean? And I was going, right, how long is this going to be?
Yeah.
And I just sat there and like started talking about it. She handed me like one of those like miraculous medals.
Yeah, right.
You know, and like and she was just all she wanted to do was tell me what the meaning of that was for her and to her, and like, you know, it did only take literally 90 seconds. And I took it and she was like, that's for you.
But
and I put it around my neck and walked on and like, and she handed me a wee leaflet and I read it and I went, that's nice. It wasn't
in the bin.
I actually didn't put it in the bin. I took it, but for usually
no, you keep you on about the wee minute. I'm wearing it right
now.
No,
the paper.
Oh, the paper. Aye.
That's nice.
I'm still wearing it. You know what I mean?
Right,
yeah.
Like,
why did you continue to wear it?
Because I did sort of think, I was going, what's the harm?
Yeah.
I see, and then I saw someone I recognized down the street, and I put it in my pocket because I still had it in my hand.
Oh, so you had it?
Oh. And it was only when you talk about Catholic guilt, I came
out of fear type of thing.
I came up here, and then I put it around my neck because I went like, I'm like, I felt guilt because I was going, why am I like ashamed of that? Why am I afraid of that? And I actually do want to like accept a bit of it.
Yeah.
And again, people like listening to me saying that will probably be put off.
That, yeah.
But I that's just genuinely how I felt.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. It's
I relate to a lot of that, I would say, Jed. And I feel as well, like, for instance, I've had bad experiences with like kind of a lot of different things. Like, so say for instance, I remember one time in Belfast, and like the story's kind of funny, like, but it's also kind of not. Like, I was walking down the street and there was like a protester or like a preacher, so to speak, and he was preaching, and it was very, to be honest, it was very radical, and it was very like, you know, like passive aggressive, like, and you know, you could call that passion. I interpreted it as passive aggressive.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's
was it like the particular thing he was preaching on?
But it was preaching. I think it was maybe preaching on. I think it was like views on. I think it was like abortion, and it was very extremist. And I think they were doing a lot of stuff. Like, they do stuff like outside contraceptive clinics and things like that.
Right.
And I just think there's something very. It's just. It really does not resonate with me personally. I think it's very invasive. I think that there's, especially men should not be able to dictate what women do and the choices that they make with their body. But when we were walking down the street, whatever he was preaching about, he looked at me, but I was coming walking with a wee pair of Zara boots on. They had like a kitten heel, like, you know, like a Chelsea boot, and click, click, click. He looked me up and down. He goes, and homosexuality is a sin. And I was like, girl, like, don't even clock me right now. Like, just because I'm wearing a wee boot. Like, some men like to be a wee wee bit off the ground. Just because I'm wearing like, you know, a Chelsea bit doesn't make me gay, even though it did. But you know what I mean? He was reading my shoes. I was like, girl, don't you come for me.
I still got a lot of grift for the crop tops back in the day.
My
argument is I had a six pack. I was in shape.
Fair
enough. I was looking good. So
yeah, but then you see with like say things like Belfast Pride especially as well, you'd always have people protesting, and there's just, and this is what we're saying, is like here we are, right? We're able to have a conversation, and I feel seen. I feel like you're listening. You will not understand everything because you haven't lived my life and you haven't the same experiences, and I won't understand yours. But it's creating space to allow people to be able to express themselves. And if you don't agree with that, like there's so much hatred in the world, and that's the part that's really, really bugging me, and that's sinful in my opinion. When that's the part where I look at with religion, I'm like, you're using religion as an excuse to project hatred into the world, and that's what I'm not about. So whenever that's been a lot of my experiences because of my mere like existence, of course my wall's going to be up. And but then the problem is I did notice myself then I would then what was being done to me. And you sometimes find this with say anybody that comes from a minority group, what the adversities they face, they project.
Of course.
So like I used to hate straight men, like nearly what you hating me, I hating you, or you know, like you see it with like, you know, like race as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's because they've taken so much adversity that they push it back, and I feel like I push back, so then nearly I generalize and categorize everybody from a religious group.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, here we go, God Squad, get away.
Even my pastor talks about this. He's like, he questions.
And that's wrong. I'm not saying that's not right. You know, like I'm just being transparent with you.
Of course, no. I look, I'm not stupid. I understand. No. Like I do see it on a daily basis myself, you know, and I do question like, what is the effectiveness of this? Like, if you're trying to reach hearts for Jesus, like, is that the best way to go about it? Look, I'm not judging anybody if they feel like they're called to do it. But also, I do think that there is more effective ways to actually show people the love of God, which is the most singular important part. You know, Jesus came to die for the world because he loved us so much. That's the important part. And it's like I said, we, for some reason, I don't want to say we, because I don't put myself in that box, like put, you know, the sin of homosexuality above every other thing. But like I said earlier in the Bible mentions gluttony and pride and envy so much more times, and it's like almost as if it's a bigger deal than homosexuality, but it's almost like it's easy to pick out because it's easily visible, you know, whereas a lot of people hide themselves. But I don't think it's that's why, like earlier, I was actually getting the tear up that you feel like that you can't even have that with God. You can't even go to God in that way, whenever I know that Jesus loved you so much to die for you. And again, it's even going back to the point you said, like, oh, I feel like you're just preaching. And it's like, it's hard because you can't separate, because what I believe to be the truth, you know?
I know.
And it's not that I'm here to be like, I'm here to go on a podcast and let me sit down and tell you about the gospel. And
I know.
But it's like, this is what I believe to be true, that there is a God who loves you very much.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry on behalf of all Christians that have misrepresented Jesus to the entire gay community, because that's not Jesus. And I think that if there's one thing to take away from this podcast is, don't let the fallen sinful nature of the world, as in like men who are going to get things wrong and do things wrong, say things wrong, don't let that misrepresent Jesus Christ. Because if you actually go to the source, who is it they're trying to tell you about? It's about Jesus, but the way that they're acting isn't very Christ-like. But don't let those actions reflect or represent Jesus, because if you go into the Bible and actually read about who is this man called Jesus, because that's what the Bible is. The Bible is stories about Jesus when he walked the earth, right? Who is what we believe to be God incarnate and etc. You know, we've all heard of it, but so that's what it's actually meant to represent: the love of God, God stepping off his throne above us all, humbling himself to come into creation, to die and bear the burdens of this world so that we can be reconciled with him. Like, that's the most, the Bible's a love story, you know?
Yeah.
So for people to misrepresent that love, it hurts me. That's why I sit and tear up and think, oh my goodness, the amount of people.
So you can see it then,
that's why I was tearing up earlier, because the amount of people who are, you know, like homosexuals, that have same-sex attraction, that feel like they can't even go to God because there's this barrier built up because of man. Like that's what breaks my heart.
And the thing is, like, you know, even like, am I right in saying like, like a lot of religion has become a lot more progressive in that kind of way? Like, I think it's the Pope. Did he not do something?
He said something about, I think it was something to do with like him blessing same-sex marriages.
Yes.
It's different from. It's not the same as like he would ordain. a same-sex marriage, but like blessing the people within the marriage, you know, blessing the men, basically the women. Like I just want to bless you, you know. So.
Yes,
it's still not good. But you know what I mean?
But like a win is a win. Like maybe not. Like I like you know. I'm used to getting called out in the middle of the Belfast City Centre for wearing a Chelsea pit, so that's a win to me. I'm going to focus on the good part.
But that's the thing. We can't turn around.
But if you look at how much it has evolved through times, and this is the thing, it's interpretation through man that has been passed down through generations.
Well, that's the thing.
And I think this is the one thing I'm getting from your conversation here today. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I've picked it up, is you're nearly trying to say is like all of the outside stuff is nearly blocking the connection, like the gateway that you have with God and with Jesus Christ. And what you're saying is that's where the answer is.
It begins. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the Bible, Jesus says, come as you are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You don't get cleaned before you go into the shower. You go into the shower to get clean, sort of thing.
Yes,
you know?
okay.
Jesus says, like, it's not about just you know, having, you know, being with men or anything.
Yeah.
Like, we're all in a fallen state. Like, we get prideful and envious of other people, or greedy sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, all of this is sin towards God, you know? So, like, it's not... Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I do get,
you know,
and I think like if we're to be really transparent here with like this kind of conversation, the reality is, and I think this is the part that we have to realize here, is there is going to come a part in our conversation where we will hit a crossroads. You get me? And I think that's the part now where we likely hit. I know deep down what you likely will, like what your belief system will be. And I know deep down where my standpoint will be on that.
Absolutely.
But the key here is what we're trying to show is like, you can see two people actually
having a conversation
and a respect. Because who am I? Like I don't think you have the right to challenge me on my view or who like that part of my life. When you know you haven't walked a day in my shoe. And I don't have a right to tell you what you like, how you should think.
Can I actually add to that? I would actually disagree.
Okay.
I think challenging is good. Because it helps us to think, you know, and to consider. Because without us challenging one another, then how can we think and consider things that we've never thought about? You know, so that's why I think, like, I actually would say, yes, challenge me, challenge my faith, like, you know, because then it makes me think, okay, right, do I have an answer for these things? You know, that's why I mean, like, challenging. I think there's a healthy, like, not challenge in the sense of like we're having a debate to try to go at each other whose ideology's on top.
That's what I think. I think that's the point I meant.
What this has been today.
I think the point I meant in that statement, was as in we don't come till a part where it's like I'm right, you're wrong. Do you get me?
Yes.
That's what I meant. That extreme challenging, yes. Because that's what I'm saying. I've always gravitated towards diversity. Somebody who makes me think or reframe my perspective, or can make me look at both sides of a coin, or you know, like
it's like you say, critical thinking.
I go for that guidance. And I don't have that guidance. Doesn't have to be labeled as Catholicism, but I call it that.
Yes, that's what you're looking for.
Just for I'm looking for the guidance, and like for like ease of like explaining it to myself, that's what I'll call it. You know what I mean? So but I think anybody can experience that in their own way. It might be therapy.
I do, and I know everybody listening or watching this will be laughing, being like, "Girl," like, but I do pray, like, and I'm not like I do, and like whenever I pray, I think the main thing I'll always do is I will pray for gratitude first. I think it's important to be thankful first. This is just me personally. And then the main thing is I'm a bit blinded here and I don't really know, but I'm just looking some sort of like a connection here. And I was always, I don't know why, if I feel nervous or anxious or any kind of way, I always grab my wrist. Because I remember being taught whenever I was a child, like as if like if you grab your wrist and ask for the Holy Spirit, it'll come.
Whoa.
I know, I don't know if that's true or not, but
it's
something that was always, I remember, like maybe I was doing my confirmation or something, but I always remember, like I was an altar boy, I like it was very, but I think.
But you were an altar boy?
Yeah. So I think I went through a lot of my adolescent and child years really feeling, I believed it, I wanted to be in it, and I felt like I was always pushed out, and nobody was pushing me out. But then society and what you're hearing, and when you're a child and growing in an adolescent, you're absorbing all this and internalizing it, and it becomes your reality to which you believe a lot of this. And then there's things like conversion therapy, and it's nearly like as if like you need to be fixed whenever. Like I don't believe. Like I think it's like completely. I think that is a sin. It is an absolute sin to try to modify a human being for whenever they were clearly created to be who they are.
Right.
That's my belief. And I think then just after all them years, truthfully, I had a lot of resentment.
Yeah, of course. I would
a lot of resentment, and I think that's where but it's. Well, it is there. Like, like I am faithful.
Here's something I've just realized through like all that,
which is very maybe surprising to people.
Wow.
I don't know. But then I think along the way as well, I think I became very punk rock, where I was nearly like, yeah, I'm gay, and I'll like fuck you, like nearly.
It's like rebellious because it's like you tried to confine me.
But meanwhile now, like I've met a partner that, and like anytime we go away on holidays, we always go around cathedrals, and like we love that. That's our wee thing, and we light a wee candle, and I don't know, it's there somewhere, but it's not black and white, but nothing in life is.
No.
Yeah,
and I think the thing is, I think that's how I feel.
Yeah,
I guess
I realized something there that we're familiar with the modern sort of like idea of life coaches.
Yeah.
Right. And in the last 5 years, that has become very popular. Like in terms of like that industry has grown.
Looked down on it. Is that what you're going to say?
What I was going to say is right. So what do people do when they go to life coaches? They're looking for guidance. They're looking for a direction. They go to events where loads of people gather, share like stories, and ask for like some sort of fulfillment or whatever. I think that has came in the absence of what people had before in religion.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think religion has turned a lot of people away, and now they're looking for that same sort of thing, because I do believe that a lot of churches have let people down.
Yeah, sure.
And went away and moved away from that, and they haven't done that job. And people have now in the modern age looked to life coaches to fill that gap for them.
Yes, mate, you've hit the nail on the head.
Whereas you could get that same thing from, and you should be getting that same from.
Totally free.
Yeah.
Totally free.
But then if you look at it as well, I do think a lot of like say like Christianity, and especially people, I don't think a lot of people maybe necessarily understand like maybe your perspective of Christianity, or like the churches that you go to or things like that. I think it's very much like a modernized outlook. Maybe I'm wrong, that's my perspective at least anyway. So but I think where a lot of people don't necessarily, I think a lot of religion is like the human or the man's scripture teachings, whatever. A lot of it's maybe outdated, not outdated, because I think that makes it, I don't want to disrespect it. It maybe doesn't feel completely applicable to today's day and age of society. And I think there's a lot of question marks with a lot of things. And
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I would,
but when you break it all down to the simple core, when you're talking about the connection with God, if you're talking about like a life coach, like we all as human beings need to feel that like guidance, or to feel connected to something.
We don't all have the answers.
It's life is kind of searching for answers, and
absolutely, it is. And I know what you're saying. I think like, I wouldn't say I'm doing a modern take on the church. I wouldn't say I'm doing a modern take of the Bible. Like at the foundation of it, I believe the Bible, and I think maybe it's just my approach might be different in today's age. I understand where we're at in today's culture, what people are seeking. You're even talking about life coaches. I mean, it seemed when I became a Christian and I started reading the Bible, I was so mind blown, because I'm like this is all everyone's teaching nowadays, but this was free 2,000 years ago. Like that's what we're saying about, it might be outdated or whatever, but the reality is, like, if you apply the Bible to your life, and again, remember, the Old Testament's more like, it's to validate Jesus Christ as the Messiah. The Old Testament is like showing and helping people understand the fallen nature of society and the world and God's redemptive plan, right? But the New Testament, it's all about letters to the churches to help people become more holy, which is to help people to produce good fruit in their lives, to have more patience and more humility and, all that there sort of stuff, right? So I think I believe in the Bible, and I think that what you're talking about, if people actually just sat and read the New Testament and learned about who Jesus is as a person, what he actually preached, and not like just listening through a game of telephone through people that have biases, but actually going to the source, you'll learn, hang on, actually, this is even if I'm not a Christian, these are good rules, and these are the good rules that our Western society was actually built upon in terms of justice, right? And we get a lot of that from the Bible. It's what our society has been built on. You hear a lot of this about Christian values and all, but you know, that's a whole other geopolitical thing people are getting into. But
you really could go down a garden. I know loads we could. I know.
Maybe on episode 2, if the people will have me back.
But like,
no, but it's
to move away from that and get on the positive note. So like, you know, now you've got your family, and you're expecting a child and stuff. So how does that?
How do you feel?
How do you feel?
Mate, I've genuinely, it's the best I've ever felt because I know who I am because of who God says I am.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't question my identity anymore. I'll have fearful thoughts. I'm not afraid. I'm not insecure. I know that like God says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. He knit me together in my mother's womb. Like I know who I am because of who God says I am. And that's what we're ultimately seeking. It's like you're looking, people like pray for affirmations. Others, we're trying to speak it over ourselves, but our words have no power. I believe it's our Creator that is understanding that we have a God who created the heavens and the earth, who's been here since the beginning of time, will be here at the end of time, who's outside of it entirely, who made all this to be. He is saying that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And the Bible is filled with these promises where he is prophetically speaking over your life, affirming your identity in him. And that makes me feel so confident and secure, and like knowing that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. If I walk in the commands of God of being, walking in humility, walking with kindness, walking with love, that the Bible will reveal the path beneath my feet, that if I just keep walking out as God would intend me, to be faithful unto him, to love and to serve and to reach humanity, that I'll be blessed for it. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I love God, and I know that it's the best thing for my family to lead as a man who loves Jesus. And that, like, my cup gets so filled that it just overpours. And that's why it hurt me in the beginning to think people automatically thought that I hated people.
Did you find it? Can I ask? Did you find that hard?
I found that really hard. Like, I understand why. Okay, I understand why people would have that perception. I get it. That's why we're having this conversation to unpack the wounds, right? And can we actually deal with these problems? Because I'm on the same side. I want you guys to know Jesus, like the real Jesus. In the same way that I know him. And that's why it was really, really hard in the beginning, because it's like, man, like if only these people actually knew my heart and knew the love that God has for them. It was difficult, and I was like constantly going with my partner and all, and I was like, it's just rough, because I'm not attacking anybody, I'm not out to get anybody, but I was getting thick. But I understand why, because of how Christianity is perceived in today's age. It's difficult unless you're sitting having a 5-hour long conversation and everybody watches the conversation for someone to understand your heart, in comparison to a 60-second video where you're sharing your testimony about how you came to faith.
The likelihood is that this episode's going to have an interesting comment section. You know what I mean? Like, because people are going to take parts and like listen to the parts that they want to listen to.
Like, you could, like, from both sides of, like, I don't like to use both sides of the coin, because that's us putting like a separation here when it shouldn't be that way. But like, the reality is, that is. But the one thing I'll say is this, and I'm saying this as a gay man, the part I've always kind of found weird was always, well, wait a minute. This is what this is all that I'm being led to, like, believe by conditioning. But I know so many people that are Christian, and I have never, ever, ever felt any form of hatred from them. And I've always fully been myself around them. But them people I know are pure. I would genuinely, and I will say that, I think you're a very pure person. There's a girl I know as well, I'll not name her here, very pure. And and then I'm like, wait a minute, like, why are you being pure?
Nice.
Why are you being understanding? Or
why
do you have empathy? Or like, because we're meant to hate each other, or we're meant to. Do you get what I mean?
What you're saying.
Then also Then I've walked down the street in Belfast and I fucking hate you, and I'm sorry. girls, I'm way down again. But like, I do hate him.
Yeah.
When that because I've dealt with that shit my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one, but it's not black and white. And I think, especially with yourself, I think likely the transition likely shocked a lot of people. And like I hope I'm not offending you by saying this. People are like, and people bring up things like a religious psychosis and things like that. There,
offend me at all.
and it's but I think the one thing I'll definitely say, I think what I've noticed in you, I think and I mean this in a respectful way, I think you have mellowed into yourself. And I think sometimes maybe, is this right or is this wrong? I don't know. This is just my perspective of it, that maybe once you have some sort of like an epiphany or this like awakening where you've built this connection, that you felt so strong about it, that it was such an intensified feeling, that you nearly had to really push away a version of yourself that was very much a part of your story.
Well, I think
and I think it felt maybe that to me it felt like you put that part of your life down.
Yeah. As in, like, I was speaking down on it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, fair
if
enough.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you weren't not like that you were disrespectful, but I feel like in order to be able to, does that make sense?
To come to terms with it.
And I've done that in parts of my life as well, where I've had to like be like nearly so disassociate from a part of my life because I have to move forward in this part. And I think people struggle with that part. How can the two not carry weight?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm very open. Like, anytime I do podcasts and stuff, I talk about my testimony and my story. And like, even before I was a Christian, I was always big on mental health, just because of my past experience growing up with battling depression, like severe depression, suicidal tendencies, and all that stuff. So for me, I'm always open to talk about my past. So it's like, I don't really know if I totally agree that's what I was doing, but I think it's like, even when you talk about mellowing out, I've actually kind of came to realize recently, it's like, because what we've talked about is God as a person, like you're talking, remember you said earlier about it's like a relationship with your friend. It's like, well, I won't go to the club because it'll hurt their feelings or whatever, blah, blah. God is a person, it's a relationship, right? What happens when you go and enter a relationship with someone? It's like a honeymoon period, right? And so for me, that's what I've actually kind of begun to realize, because I was experiencing, like, I don't want to get too spiritual to turn people off, but like the things I was experiencing and what God was showing me, like it was so powerful and intimate when I was in my room on my knees crying out in prayer, like in what God was revealing to me and fixing my heart. And like, it was so raw and intense that it's like, and because I'm on social media and I want to be open and sharing that story, this is the parts that people are seeing in the developing story, a testimony of what God is doing in my life. So it's like, I've actually come to realize, because recently I haven't been getting as many fuzzy feelings as I was in the beginning, because it's like a honeymoon period of a relationship. But God's not looking for like, are you so loud and out there in your faith? But he just wants to see faithfulness. Are you doing the small things right? Are you doing the small things well? And like, that's where I'm at now. But don't get me wrong, like, I love God and I want to tell more people about the truth of who Jesus actually is, rather than the misconceptions of what we know based on culture and the pain and the hurt and the division, or the individuals that have represented God wrong. And, so that's my goal. And I do want to continue to use my social media platform as a means for people to discover that, right? And hopefully people through that will begin to think and question for themselves, okay, what is actually the truth, rather than just believing everything that I'm fed. So for me, that's the way that I kind of perceive it.
And the last question I would
by
have,
the way, I want to say massive respect. Like, I think
for
I do
coming
think
in
it is.
here.
Yeah, and I think massive respect. I've always had respect for you. You've always known that, and I hope I haven't came across in any way confrontation. No, but like, but in order to be able, this is, and truthfully, anybody listening to this, like, if you've made it to this part, like, thank God, please, like, thank God, God forgive. Oh God, sorry. So, when you're trying not to come say, we're sorry, but is that blasphemy? I don't know. Anyway, there's me down another step. But I think anybody that has been listening to this or watching, see, even if it's just 1% of like, whoa, we've had so many guests on here, and people have, like, the feedback has been, I was skeptical and I listened, and whoa, like, you're not here you're trying to share your experience. And I think there is a lot of misunderstandings that a lot of people, and that's just my experiences. I'm sure many people listening might have different experiences with, and I think it's showing the humanity between two people that are very different with different thought points, but also similarities, and how we can actually, like, I found it's a very refreshing conversation.
Absolutely. Like, it's not my job to come in here and like speak to your audience that are
but
probably...
I think that's the problem. I think a lot of people think that that's what it is.
No, I'm not here to be like,
I don't want to hear,
Jerry, I'm here to get you straight.
No,
like, shut up. No, it's like, I have...
Oh, good luck, girl. No, sorry.
But like, I know plenty of Christians that have similar, like, same-sex attractions. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know.
Like,
and I know a lot too as well, yeah.
Yeah, something that people, battle with being a Christian. So it's like, how are we meant to go forward and progress and people understanding who God really is and all this stuff if we don't actually talk about it and have the hard conversations? I think, relatively speaking, this conversation has been quite mild, but it's not like we're coming in here for what's the word, sensationalism and trying to...
That's not what we are.
And I think
it's not really our gig.
The world that we live in right now, it platforms and highlights everything that is divisive, because there's something inside of us that loves watching a debate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But see, I look at all of that as a wee bit trashy, because I see it as more as like that sensationalized, where I feel like you would be exploiting me and I would be exploiting you for like rage bait or clickbait or whatever. That's not what this is about. Truthfully, the goal is, I think we live in a world now where we are so afraid of diversity.
Yes.
And also, a lot of the stuff that you say, there will be parts I will maybe, I'm not going to say, like, disagree, likely yes, but also there'll be parts that I will really resonate with, and there's a lot I can really relate to in different parts of my life, and also with faith.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us feel that. So it's just, I suppose, I just think, critically think, and don't be afraid of having difficult conversations. And this is an example of two people that we've all been able to have.
This was hard.
It was hard
to do, but it was good.
Yeah.
And we get siloed a lot, don't we? Yeah. We sit in our own lane and believe all the things that, like...
I'm sure there's probably a lot of Christians that are like, what the flip's he doing on that podcast?
This is what I mean, like, yes, of course. And I'm not naive to that, like, completely.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I mean. It is literally, like, I don't see it like that, but perspectively...
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised as well. I can see people, like, within, like, the LGBT community that would be maybe like, what? Like,
But I think the important thing is, like, regardless, like, I just want to, what my heart is to get across is, regardless of what I'm saying or what anyone else is saying, don't listen to me or take what I say as gospel. Just go and find out about Jesus and learn about who he is. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I don't want to misrepresent God, because he's perfect and he's all loving, all knowing.
Yeah.
He desires a relationship with each and every single one of us. And I don't want to be a stumbling block to get in a way between anybody coming to have what I have now tasted, because it's the most unbelievable relationship that you could ever have with anybody, so I'm sorry that culture is the way that it is, and it's put up this big wall and barrier between the LGBT community and Christians. The divide it shouldn't be that kind of divide.
I know
my pastor's like, straight, gay, lesbian, trans, Muslim, Hindu, whatever, bring them all to church. If you want to know Jesus, we'll introduce you, And it's not like for any other gain than for the benefit of people having this relationship.
I think a lot of people, like I know, like, it's kind of like nearly like as like it's there's a lot of trauma with, like, conversion therapy. It was really, really messed up, and there's a lot of, that's another, like, that's
men
a deep
can't
dive.
change.
But
like
it's
well, the one thing I want to ask you before you go is like, so
don't drop a bomb on me here in the last minute.
I would love to know like how you feel about this. So, like, a lot of things that we say is that, like, as human beings, we're layered. Like,
we're not we're like onions.
Yeah, we're not one-dimensional things.
No.
So, if you're a Christian, what else? What else makes up Jed? What else are you?
I'm a content creator. I'm a storyteller. I'm a marketer. I was a breakdancer. I was a skateboarder. I was a free runner. Like, there's many aspects of it, but it's like I struggle to not make Jesus the first and foremost part of my personality, because that's who I am. That's who created me, and that's the goal in life. Like, we all search for purpose, and I believe the purpose of life is to know God and to make him known. I think that's why we're brought into existence, to know God, because there's this amazing relationship. Sorry, I feel like I'm preaching again. I don't mean to get off. I don't mean to get off topic. But that is why that people are like, oh my goodness, sorry, I was preaching again. But it's like, it's woven into the fabric of my identity and my being, of like this amazing God. Everything else is secondary. I don't put myself above God, you know, because he's gifted me with all these amazing giftings. For what purpose? To bless others, to help others, you know. So for me, it's like, you know, marketing and, you know, being able to communicate and being able to have these kind of conversations, like, you know, what makes me up, like, what
would
you
you
know,
say, like, being creative would be like,
absolutely, like, I love being creative, you know. It's like, what you know, what makes up you, like?
Well, I'm a musician. I'm a husband and a father and a son
and a melter
and a brother and a and a friend.
A friend, kind.
Yeah,
that's more characteristics, is it?
Well,
yeah.
Like, I'm a lot of things.
Yeah,
but we're multifaceted. Is that the right word?
Yes, that's it.
Is that thing? Right, okay, good.
We're all the way I look at it, we're blessed to be a blessing. I believe we're given gifts from God to bless others.
Attributes and qualities, and I know. I've really, really enjoyed this. Have you, Sean?
I have. Yeah.
What was your So curious. What was your perspective before because you wouldn't have known. Well, you would be aware of, like, you would be aware, but you wouldn't have known how this would have.
Honestly, I've learned, and this isn't me bullshitting. I'm honestly not even bullshitting here, but I didn't think. I know, like, well, we're going. Oh, what way is it going to go? And blah, blah, like, but
because you just don't know.
You just don't know.
Yeah, of course,
but I genuinely knew that, like, you can't go. I've had conversations with, like, I've interviewed conservative politicians that are like have been accused of doing war crimes and all. No, and you sit down and you have a conversation with someone and you shake their hand and you realize it's another person. You know what I mean? You can come at the table from the complete opposite side from someone and you find something to talk about and find humanity.
That's the way I kind of look at it. It's like, what impact can I have right now, here within my local communities, knowing the environment that I grew up in? How can I help people who are suffering from suicide, like suicidal tendencies, and families suffering from suicide, and the amount of, like, problems whenever it comes to, like, low income houses, and like, how can I solve these problems? So that's, like, where my position now in life is, right? How can I be a better friend? How can I be a better community member? How can I be a better husband? And I think for me, what that looks like is loving God helps me to love good. And the more that I love God, the more I love good, the more I turn away from wanting to do selfish things that could hurt or harm others, which is why the world is in the state that it is. So it's been a very refreshing conversation, and I do really appreciate having me on, and I hope that people will see the heart behind this and not try to paint either one of us with a brush. You know,
and that's and I think that's the thing from both sides of it. I think there's definitely, you know, hopefully people can see the humanity in it, and maybe yet again, I think we should critically think more.
Absolutely.
For ourselves, you know, and not be so influenced by hatefulness in the world in whatever capacity.
Yeah, I think the best thing you do is just question everything, test everything, rather than just immediately believing what everyone says. Test it yourself. You know. And
then can I ask you? So obviously, then, you know, you're going to be a dad now. Obviously, you're very, very. Would you say happy?
Yeah.
Very happy. Good.
I think the important thing is, like, it's more peace than anything. Because I have hard days, I have bad days, I have good days. It's normal. I'm going through the fire sometimes, but I have peace throughout it all, because like, I'm just so content with who God is and who He says that I am, that it just makes me just have this steady stream of peace regardless of whatever season I'm going in, you know. So for me, it's not just about being happy, it's like I am at peace, and that's something money can't buy. You know.
And I think that's something we're all searching for, isn't it? You know, to be happy and to feel at peace within ourselves. And, you know, as for you, like, obviously with God, and for many it will be that as well. But no, honestly, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you coming on, Jen. Is there anything that you kind of want to leave, like whether it's a quote or anything that you want to? And we give everybody this opportunity. You know, we always conclude an episode, so it can be whatever you wish for it to be.
Could I pray?
Yes.
Yeah, can I pray?
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
All
right, I'm just gonna close my eyes. So,
do you want me to do this with you? Should I, or should I?
You're open to whatever you can do.
We'll give it a go. Give it a go. Okay, right. I don't think I've done. Okay, so I'll close my eyes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right, Father God, I just thank you for the conversation that we've had today. I thank you, Lord, that it's been so respectful and honorable and just considerate of one another. And I just pray, Lord, that whoever watches this, I pray, Lord, that you give them eyes to see, Father God, the heart of the conversation, which is not division, but unity, Lord, and being able to find the love within one another, Lord, and to come closer as individuals and to love each other on a level that is not divided by, you know, political ideology or whatever it may be. I thank you for Jared here. I thank you for what he's doing with this podcast. I thank you, Lord, that he's even invited me on to be able to talk about you working in my life. And I pray, Lord, that conversation blesses others as well, in the means that not just out of selfish gain, but Lord, I just pray that they see something that they may not have heard before. They see something that they may not have considered before. And I pray, God, that whoever is listening, Lord, that they may experience the peace and the blessing of God upon their lives, Lord. And it's not about trying to fix your life entirely before they come and just meet you. Where I just pray, Lord, that you just meet them where they're at right now, wherever they're sitting, wherever, if it's on, sitting in their bedroom, watching the podcast, or on the train, wherever they are, Lord, I just pray, Lord, that you just touch them right now in the name of Jesus, Lord. I pray you let them know that they are loved, and nothing can come in between the love that you have for them, not what the world has to say, not what their family has to say, not what the communities have to say, Father God. Nothing can separate you from that person. To pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. And then I do that. That's just my wee thing.
Oh man.
Sorry. Oh, that was lovely, wasn't it? That felt like nearly like a meditation in a way.
I actually feel pretty
good. I
right
feel
now,
good.
Yeah.
When like try a meditation for the first time, I was about like, one eye open, like, am I gonna laugh here? But like, no, man,
honestly,
I feel a weight lift.
The last thing I'll say is, you don't have to be like me, right? You don't have to, if you are on this journey of discovering faith. Me as a Christian, I have a desire to shout out about Jesus so people know, right? It's not what everybody's called to do, but even in the privateness of your own home, just try it. When you go to bed, laying head on the pillow, say, Jesus, if you are real, show me. Yeah. Or if that guy's crazy, then so be it, But I just say, open the possibility to Jesus being who he says he is. Yeah. And I promise you, you are in for a real shock.
Really?
Yeah, it's exciting though. But yeah, thanks so much for having me.
No, honestly,
I'm really excited to see what people have to say.
No, Jed, honestly, I've really, really respected you coming on here. And like that's the thing. It's not it's you're coming into like an environment which is maybe not like your normal, so to speak. So I just want to thank you for showing myself and Sean respect and grace as well, and I hope that you felt that we've shown you that too. But guys, thank you so much. A very different episode to what we're usually. You know what I know, like
that's what I was thinking. I was like, I know, like you have the banter and all, and I'm like,
but you are funny though. Like you are funny too. And the thing is, I think people nearly think, oh, you can't say this. You can have a joke too. You're very much in a joke as well.
Listen, God has a sense of humor.
Yeah,
right? I'm being serious.
Yeah, well, he gave me it
exactly.
Everybody says
it's
I'm really
gift.
funny.
It's a gift.
I didn't get that. That was God.
It is. It is.
It is. Look, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thanks again. We're going to leave Jed's social links in the description section below if you want to go check him out, check his work out. He is an amazing creator. And thanks again for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. You just hit that subscribe button. That keeps you up to date with any upcoming episodes. And yes, thank you, Jed. And yes, have a great day, everybody.
Adios.
Yes.
Chat is later.